This is It's an Inside Job, and I'm your host, Jason Lim. This is the show where we explore the stories, strategies, and science behind growing resilience, nurturing well-being, and leading with intent. Because when it comes down to it, it's all an inside job. Well, welcome back. This week, we're diving into the fascinating world of dreams and how they offer profound insights into our mental health and our well-being. I mean, have you ever wondered what your nightly adventures are trying to tell you? Well, I'm thrilled to welcome back Karen van Kampen for our second episode together. Now, Karen is an accomplished author currently working on a book with Simon Schuster Canada about the science of dreaming, exploring the connection between our dreams and well-being, and how we can use our nightly fictions to improve our waking lives. Karen is also the author of The Golden Cell, Gene Therapy, Stem Cells, and the Quest for the Next Great Medical Breakthrough. Her writings have also appeared in numerous publications, including the Globe and Mail and the National Post. So in this episode, you'll discover how your daily stresses and worries might be manifesting in your dreams, and some practical techniques for managing challenging dream experiences like nightmares. We're also going to be talking about actionable strategies and emerging tools to enhance dream recall, and harnessing those dream states for self-reflection and even to tap into your own creativity. We're also going to be talking about new perspectives on dream interpretation, exploring the differences between analytical approaches and how connecting dream elements to your waking life, while how it can spark fresh ideas and curiosity. We'll also be discussing how dreams serve as powerful tools for memory consolidation, emotional processing, and problem solving, and how they can be used creatively and reflectively in daily life. But the biggest takeaway of all, well, that's the core insight into how dreams truly empower us to understand and improve our waking lives. And well, that's something you'll need to listen to till the very end to uncover. So without further ado, let's slip into my second conversation with Karen van Kampen. Well, I'd like to welcome Karen back to the show. Karen, welcome.
Hi, Jason. Great to see you again. Great to hear you.
I've been looking forward to this part 2 and continuing our dream discussion because I find it such a fascinating point. And just before we start recording, dreams, I had mentioned that I think dreams obviously are something important to the human biological machine that we are. Otherwise, it would have, I guess, disappeared. And it's us trying to interpret it. And why not bring the guru of dreams on? So perhaps for our new listeners who may not know you, could you briefly introduce who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm a writer. I'm based in Toronto, and I have always had a fascination with sleep and dreams. My dad's a sleep doctor, so I grew up in a house that was really obsessed with sleep and sleep quality and how to get a good sleep. And dreams have always fascinated me since I was a kid. I used to fall asleep when I used to have this uncanny ability to fall asleep. If it was turbulence during a flight, or if I was, in a snowstorm as a kid, I would just fall asleep. And I found that dreams provided this escape and also this comfort. And a few years ago, I read this article that we're as dream deprived as we are sleep deprived. And it got me wondering, why do dreams matter on their own? We hear a lot about why sleep matters, but why do dreams matter? What does it mean for our health and our mental health? So that set off this whole year of researching and talking to dream researchers and dreamers and learning all about the dreaming process and why dreams matter.
And there's a whole Pandora's box there. Once we open it up, maybe rabbit holes. We find ourselves in a war of tunnels. Well, the last time we spoke, we talked a lot about how dreams and the quality of our dreams and the nature of our dreams can reflect our mental and emotional well-being or ill-being. And so this is sort of a ... conversation in part 2. So where would you like to begin our conversation in part 2 here?
So last time, I think we spoke almost a year ago now, and I've learned so much about dreaming. I've been interviewing all these different dream scientists and writers and dreamers. And it really, I've learned a lot about how to look. It's different ways that you can look at dreams. So basically, dreams are experiences. Just like we have waking experiences, we have dream experiences. And in terms of the thing that really interests me is how dreams are related to our mental health and well-being. And if you think about stress, let's say you're in the middle of the day, you're stressed out. It could be for personal reasons, for work, all different reasons. And there's not this on-off switch. When we lie down, it's not that we let go of our stresses and our worries and our anxieties. And there's a lot of evidence that shows our preoccupations and our worries and our concerns, they take center stage in our dreams. So if we're worrying about something during the day, if we're stressed out, it's pretty likely that this will show up in our dreams in some form. We don't know what form it'll show up in, but it makes sense that there's not this end to our stresses when we lie down at night.
Just to get a little more specific, what do you mean what form it'll show up in? For me, dreams are always being sort of a visual component with an emotional tag to it, depending upon what it is.
Right. So one example is, so on and off since I was a kid, I've had this dream of falling. So I'm in this dark space and I'm on this metal beam, and it's this rusted out scaffolding of this building. And I picture myself somehow losing my footing and I'm falling. So I'm falling through the air. And just before I hit the ground, I wake up. So I was asking one of the dream researchers who I was speaking with, what does this mean? And this is sort of an example of how he said, that's maybe you're feeling helpless in your life, like helplessness or uncertainty. It could come out. So let's say it's something to do with maybe work or something to do with, embarking on something new. It might not play out in your dreams the way that it's playing out usually it doesn't play out in your dreams the way it plays out in real life. But I always think it reflects a theme. It sort of tells us where we should be focusing our attention. It tells us, maybe something is bothering us, or maybe we should take a closer look at something. So that would be an example. And as an aside, I found out, so when I asked this dream researcher, what should I do when I have this falling dream? And he said, waking up is the ultimate avoidance strategy. So every time I wake up, I'm not getting conclusion or resolution. So he said, what you need to do is try and change it. So I shouldn't try and escape my falling dream. So I said, okay, what if I imagined not falling, was my question to him. And he said, no, you're still avoiding. Don't avoid falling. So then I said, what about if I imagined this big fluffy mattress on the ground and then I fall onto the mattress? And he said, that would be a good resolution, a good situation, because you're not avoiding it. You're just changing it. You're rewriting an ending. So that could be an option.
But in the sense, are you referring to lucid dreaming where you're conscious of the fact that you're dreaming? So because I've been in my dream where I've tripped and I've just bounced out of my dream because I've flinched or something, right? I'm out.
Right. Yeah.
But you're talking about the interpretation of the dream during a conversation of some sort, or?
So one way of dealing with bad dreams, recurring dreams, nightmares is something called imagery rehearsal therapy. And I think we might have touched on it last time. It's basically before you go to sleep, you try and re-script your dream. And so it could be, say, the ending of your dream is, for me, it's always the ending for that particular dream. But for other people, it might be a detail in your dream, which is frightening or scary. So it's trying to re-script the dream before you go to sleep. That is one way. But lucid dreaming, right? So you could practice becoming lucid and then become and understand that you're dreaming. And then if you're able to do that, which is really hard. I've never been able to be completely lucid, but then you can try and change your dream while you're dreaming. But what I was talking about is basically before you lie down.
Okay.
Is right. And then there's this other thing that you can do so actually we'll get into it later. You know what? I'll talk about it after.
Yeah. So since we're talking about, we've opened up the conversation as using dreams as tools. I was wondering, how do you
Right.
personally use dreams as a tool in your sort of daily life? If we just kind of start practical and quite general with all this
So how
research
I
you've done.
do,
Yeah.
so I find something, it's really simple. So we read all about all of these tools and techniques, and it can get
Mm.
very complicated. And some I've tried. One thing that I do that really works is I keep a paper and a pen by my bedside table, and like on my bedside table. And if I'm working on, it actually helps for two reasons. If I'm unable to sleep, then I get up, I turn on my light, and I write down whatever's on my mind.
Mm.
Because it might not be even a worry. It might be something that I'm trying to tell myself, okay, don't forget tomorrow, you've got to do this thing. And then it prevents me from sleeping and it actually interrupts my dreams. But another thing is, I leave the paper and pen there because when I wake up in the morning, you know that feeling when you're first waking up and you're in that kind of dreamy brain state, you're just sort of awake, sort of asleep. Maybe I can hear, a car driving by my window, or I'm starting to notice my surroundings, but I'm
Mm.
kind of feeling in that dreamy state. I
Yes.
kind of try and hold on to that, especially if I'm
Mm.
working on a new project or a story. And then when I've got an idea, because my mind's free enough to think about something new, but has enough awareness that I can follow the thought, then I wake up and I write it down. So I find that really a really good way to sort of use your dreams. That's one way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's an
really
excellent
simple.
tool. But just as a
Yeah.
side comment, how long did it take you to sort of be cognizant you were in that sort of dream waking state, in between states, or its own individual state, to think, okay, just try to stay in this state and answer this question or finish the idea?
Okay. So, as an example, this morning I woke up maybe like 20 minutes before my alarm, which I often
Mm.
do, and which is pretty common. And you're sort of aware that you need to get up soon. And I kind of lay there, maybe it was about 10 minutes, and I was just going over certain things in my mind and this story I'm working on. And then I looked, and it was about 10 minutes later that I got up and started writing down some ideas. And it's just this creative sweet spot. So that's actually something we could talk about is I talked to you a little bit, I think, about last time. Adam Haar and colleagues from MIT and Harvard, they did this experiment, and they're doing a study, and they're also doing a lot to do with targeted dream incubation. They actually coined the term. So basically, we've been incubating on a dream topic for thousands of years
Mm.
around the world, different cultures, different societies. What's new is to try and incubating to try and decide what you're going to dream about. So that's not new. But what is new is to use technology, to use an external stimuli like sound or touch to
Yeah.
try and help you guide your dreams. So Adam was kind enough to help me set up this at-home dream experiment with TDI, and it was so much fun. So basically, for their study, they got subjects to try and imagine, trying to dream, try and think of a tree. So as you're falling asleep, sleep onset, those first few minutes of sleep when
Mm.
you're moving, traversing from waking into light sleep in that really sort of dreamy stage, they would he set me up so that this recording would happen, and just as I'm starting to drift off, a recording of my voice that I did said, remember to think of a tree. And so it did this. I did 5 naps, and it did this intermittently at different times during sleep onset, and it was so cool. I found that when I first lay down, my thoughts of a tree were very concrete. So I was imagining. So I thought, okay, I've got to think of a tree. I can do this. I can do this. And so I started thinking of, oh, there's this maple tree on my front lawn that just won't grow, or, this forsythia tree in the backyard. Oh, it just got the yellow leaves. And I started thinking about that. But then, and it was only a few minutes.
Mm.
And then my thoughts became more abstract and more creative. And what happened was, I thought of these cedars that we had planted from this old log cabin that our family used to own. And we planted them, and they've grown to 12 feet in our backyard. But then it reminded me of this cabin that we used to go to and all the wonderful times. So that thought of a tree then took me into this whole, thought process of a different place, and I was experiencing a different place. And just as I felt like I was just about to start to really get into dreaming, then the recording would say, remember to think of a tree. And then you find that you start thinking so creatively and abstractly about this chosen topic. So it's really interesting.
Wow.
It's very cool.
So would this be considered a sort of a low-tech tool or a high-tech tool when it comes to dreaming?
Well, I say low tech because he helped me set it up at home. So I did the recording. I used the website and did the recording and did it myself. And it was just an ad hoc sort of thing just so I could test it out. So they are, so Adam and his lab mate, Thomas Vega from MIT, they have created Dust, and it is this art and science collective. And they're also right now creating this app. And so that's going to be this high-tech tool. It's very cool. If you just Google Dust Systems, and it'll come up. In about 3 months, they're going to be doing beta testing if people want to sign up and try it, test it out. And so there's going to be different programs, and I know they're working on helping people increase their dream recall, guide their dream thoughts, as well as try and reduce stress dreams and nightmares. So that's the high-tech dream tool that's coming from them.
Hey, quick question for you. Are you someone who wants to be fit, healthy, and happy? And what if I told you could get your dream body by simply just listening to a podcast? I'm Josh.
And I'm KG, and we're the hosts of the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast.
Listen, we get it. Fitness isn't easy. Carbs, no carbs.
Just stop, okay? It doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's why we made this podcast. We get straight to the facts so you can become your best you.
So the way to check us out is click the link in the show notes or search Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast on any of the major podcast platforms. We'll see you soon.
I was just wondering, if we go back to the tree tool per se, I mean, have you applied it to some sort of specific conundrum or question or problem you've had? And has it actually helped you practically in some way other than the experiment itself? I mean, around your writing and your creativity and such?
So it's interesting you asked that. So over the past year, of course, I'm thinking so much about dreaming. And I keep asking myself, what is a dream? You can look at dreams so differently. What are they? What role do they play? What is the dreaming process? And so I notice there's a lot of evidence that shows whatever you're sort of thinking about in the sleep onset, the first few minutes of sleep, often your brain tags it to revisit later in the night. And so I kept thinking, what is a dream? And I guess in a way I was just sort of guiding my dream thoughts or just guiding my thoughts as I was falling asleep. And so I started thinking about when I work in my office, I have this terrible habit of writing down ideas on these little scraps of paper. I have all these wonderful, completely blank notebooks that I could use, but I don't know. I just seem to always write all these ideas on these little pieces of paper. And so I dreamt that these pieces of paper were actually dreams, and I was sewing them together to create this quilt of dreams. And then suddenly I snipped the thread that was keeping them together, and then they just started to drift off, and I was watching my dreams. So I do use it to sort of to think about things in a different way. And there was a study that found sleep onset is this creative sweet spot. So it's this generator of, we can have these wonderfully creative and new and fresh ideas during these first few minutes of sleep. Salvador Dali used to do this. He had this method. I don't know if you heard about it. It was called Slumber with a Key.
No, but I've seen his.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen the tool, but I've seen his paintings. I mean, they are very surreal and dreamlike and ethereal in many ways.
Right. Yes, exactly. That's what I think too. And so he used to sit in this chair, this one specific chair, and he used to hold a key in his hand, and underneath his dangling hand holding the key was this plate. And so he would let himself drift off. And when he dropped the key, he would wake up, and from this sort of in between sort of dream state, early stage of dreaming, and then he would write down his ideas, or however he would put down his ideas. So it's been happening for years, and it's so interesting to use those first few minutes and really see what new ideas you can generate.
Yeah, it's funny. So sometimes, a couple hours before I catch my Z's, I'll watch some Netflix and such. But I have to actually be quite cognizant if I'm watching a very exciting movie or a TV show, a crime show, what have you. I won't think much about it. I'm so tired. I kind of crawl under the sheets and I fall asleep. But I'd have to say a majority of the time, that show or that movie I'd seen revisits me in the dream, and it somehow interweaves it with my daily activities and stuff.
Right.
So, it's just it was sort of serendipitous. I just kind of walked into that experience of what you're talking about. But you are much more cognizant as to what you want to focus on in those few minutes before you fall asleep. So that becomes part of your things. I think that's a very great tool I'm going to start using, because I see my brain does it automatically. So whatever, just before I go to sleep, it will interpret it. I never really thought much about it, right? I'm thinking, okay, that's why I'm so restless when I'm sleeping, right? Because it's, I don't know, dodging bullets or chasing a criminal or something. I don't know, but
exactly. That's what I always think, it also sort of reminds us to try and attend to whatever's bothering us before we go to sleep. I always think, if I lie down and I have a worry or something that I'm turning over and over and again in my mind, I'm going to have a restless sleep. It's going to affect my overall sleep. It's going to affect my dream sleep. It's going to affect my dreams. And the more I learned this year, it just makes sense, because if we're stressed during the day, this is, it's likely this is going to show up at night. And it just made me think of it when you were talking about your dream. I'm as interested in the reality as the fiction of my dreams. I'm just as interested in what my dreaming brain will pluck and take from my waking reality and decide to explore, as much as what my imagination will create, like these strange dream scenarios. Because I just think that we learn so much about ourselves, and we get different glimpses of ourselves, different perspectives, whether it's, pure fiction or reality. It's showing what we're thinking and what matters to us and what we're focusing on in our dreams. I just find it so interesting.
No, I find it very fascinating, because, as you said, our dreams tend not to be a direct translation of our that day's experience, but it may be translated into an image or translated into some sort of metaphor or something along that, some sort of poetic nuance of what our experience was. And so part of that is also the idea of dream interpretation. And in our conversations, you talked about how AI-powered dream interpretation can sometimes help us. I was wondering, how does that differ from sort of the classic Freudian or Jungian dream interpretations? I was wondering if we could maybe go down that lane a little.
For sure. So I tried out this app, and it's called Elsewhere. And it is really interesting. It's really cool to use. So it's got all these different features. It lets you log your dreams. It actually creates sketches of your dreams. And something I'm really interested in is it does these different dream interpretation modes. So I tested it out, and then I spoke with Kelly Bulkley. He's a dream researcher, and he lives outside of Portland, Oregon. And he's an advisor for Elsewhere on the content side. So he helped with the analysis, the interpretation piece. And so I took one of my dreams and I put it through Elsewhere. So what you can do is you can choose the interpretation mode. So I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try the Freudian interpretation mode and the Jungian interpretation mode. And it was so much fun. So I took this dream. Do you want me to tell you about the dream?
Yeah, sure. Why not? If you don't mind sharing it.
Do we have time? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay. So basically, I had this dream that I was in this rental car. I'd rented a car, and unfortunately, there was a hole in the floor of the car, and I was suddenly driving through this snowstorm, and it was whiteout conditions. I could barely see, and then my dream flipped, and I was in this bar. It was this bar with all the windows were covered in paper, and it was like mismatched tables and chairs, and there was a dartboard and neon beer signs, and it was just this place. And then I look over, and there's this man, and he's wearing like a World War II gas mask, and I have no idea why. I don't know who he is. And just as he's starting to approach me, there's this waitress who comes over. Oh, first of all, sorry, I forgot to say, I ordered beer, and the way you order is you just hold up your hand. You just say like 2 for 2 beer, or 4, or whatever you want. And so I held up 2, and they come in these little juice glasses. And this is a place I've actually been. And so this waitress comes over and gives me my drinks and says, "You have to pay." And this man wearing this gas mask is coming towards me. And I looked at her and I said, "Okay." So I try and pay, but my credit card is denied. I tap, but it fails. And I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I know why I'm dreaming about this, because I'm worried about money, because I'm trying to rent a car for a vacation and it's a lot of money." And she says to me, "It doesn't matter. You still have to pay me. Like you might know why, but you still have to pay me." And then just as he's pulling off the gas mask, I wake up. So I talked to Kelly about the dream, and then I also put it through elsewhere to get the different modes, right? So Freud, he believed that, and like we've talked about Freud together. Mm-hmm. So he believed in dreams are repressed wishes, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Jung, he believed that you could look at the surface of dreams. Dreams reveal what we think and envision about our own lives. So you can take them for face value. And maybe, they're strange and bizarre because our rational mind is out of touch with our psyche, and dreams help us sort of come to grips with both of those, bring them together. So I did the Freudian analysis, and some really cool stuff came out. So Freud thought that, what did it say? That the act of driving, even in a snowstorm, may say something about my journey or control over my life. So maybe I'm trying to like figure out where I'm going or something.
Okay.
Right. And then, but the Jungian interpretation saw the rental car as this temporary state that I was in because it's a rental car. But for me, whenever I'm thinking about my dreams, I tend to just connect them to whatever's going on in my waking life. I kind of explain them away that way to myself. So I woke up and just thought, oh, okay, I was renting a car. I spent hours online trying to rent a car. That's the reason why. And I never thought anything of it. And years ago, when I was a kid, we actually were driving through the Canadian prairies in a whiteout snowstorm in a rental car. And the only car on the lot that was left was one with a hole in the floor. So I was like, okay, that's why it actually happened. But the cool thing about doing these tools is that you get completely different perspectives. And it's not that there's one that's right. It's not right or wrong. It's just giving you a different way of looking at your dreams. So, I always think we're like the best interpreter of our own dreams. We can take or leave what interpretations are given to us and see what makes sense for us. But it just gives us a different way of looking at our dreams, is sort of how I look at it.
That's very
yeah.
No, I just find it fascinating. Just to riff on that, it's almost like a reframing technique where you saw sort of the practicalities. Oh, if it was a memory of what have you, I remember this,
right?
And it was you just kind of logically linking it. But when the Elsewhere app throws it through Freudian or Jungian or what have you, and it's different interpretations, it's almost a way of reframing, and that in itself can spark new ideas, a sense. Curiosity to see.
Right.
Yeah. I just wanted to riff on that from a psychological point of view of the reframe.
Exactly. Exactly. And I always think it sort of adjusts my lens on the same experience that I have, that that I had. The dream is the same, but yeah, it's a reframe. You're adjusting your lens and you're thinking about it totally. Yeah, I agree. It's so cool when that happens and it's the exact same situation, but you have a totally different perspective on it.
You can go and see some sort of abstract art, but everyone sees the same thing, but they can pull different meanings from it. It's almost when someone says, "Oh, can you see that?" And you kind of take a moment to kind of let it land. It's like, yeah, I
Right.
didn't see that angle. Or it's like looking up at clouds, right? Someone will see an elephant and you see something else. But if you take the time as they describe it to you, oh yeah, and it comes out, right? It's almost that pareidolia effect where we see human faces and everything.
I love it. And then you get these totally different ways of seeing.
Mm.
And then it changes your way of seeing after that, I find. It kind of opens up your mind in a way. Like the man with the gas mask, the Jungian interpretation was it could be a shadow archetype. So this could be representing that. Or it could be maybe I'm concealing a part of myself. Whereas I just thought, okay, I'd watched a movie about World War II recently, and so I connected it that way. But I'm never this year has really made me dig deeper into different ways of seeing dreams and then seeing myself and seeing different things, different themes or ideas that I keep sort of chasing in my dreams. It's really
interesting.
Neat.
I interrupted you. You were going to talk about, I think, a third interpretation, or you were going to add on top of your dream.
Oh, right. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to tell you about was, so I was really interested. Something that I do is I don't know how yet to become fully lucid to completely control my dream, but I'm almost on the cusp of it. So when I'm dreaming, oftentimes I will tell myself, or I will tell a dream character why I'm dreaming something. And so when I met this waitress and my card was denied when I tried to pay for the beer, I said, "Oh, it's because I'm worried about money. That's why I'm dreaming about you. That's why I'm dreaming of this." And she said, "Well, you still have to pay me." And so the Jungian interpretation was it highlighted this tension, it said, between awareness and obligation. So just because I'm aware of something doesn't mean that I can skirt around the obligation of the fact. So I found that really, really interesting, right? Like how I was playing with that. And then I really want to try and keep working on taking that moment and realizing, okay, I'm in a dream. So I'm at that moment where I'm gaining awareness of the dream state. And then can I, start to control and guide, I should say, guide what's going on in my dream. But I'm always so interested to see what's going to happen that I say to myself, okay, I know it's a dream, but I want to see how this plays out. So it's just funny. I never seem to keep going with the lucid.
Yeah,
lucidity.
The reason I want to just jump in there, because I've felt the same thing, because sometimes I'll be in sort of whatever dream arc. It's taking me through some sort of story arc. I don't know, right? And you see maybe people passing you on a street, and your dream or your dream mind is focused on whatever it is in front of you. But sometimes I catch myself being just a slight cognizant, like trying to catch vapor, right, with your hand. And for a moment, I'm cognizant that I'm dreaming, but instead of focusing on the dream, I'm curious to thinking, I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I'm thinking, how does my brain generate all these details, right? Because they're kind of foggy. But when I look to the right, let's say I'm walking down a street and I see a tree or I see someone, instead of focusing on the main theme of the dream, my curiosity will just pivot to the right or to the left, whatever it is, and I'll take a look at that person's face, and all of a sudden it comes out in the details. Or I'll look at a tree and I'll see the texture of the bark of the tree or the leaves, and that's the only time I really capture myself being lucid, if I can use that in a loosely defined way. But then I get drawn back into the dream. I fall, my consciousness just, it just evaporates and I'm back into a dream state. But I'm always curious, Karen, how the brain can generate such vivid and vibrant details just for that moment. I don't know how it's doing because I'm not consciously doing it, evidently. But then I
Yeah.
slip back into a dream state and I continue down the story arc of whatever craziness my brain's, going through.
Yeah.
But I just wanted
Yeah.
to kind of have that side note. That's the only time I find some level of lucidity.
Right. I do the same thing. And you have it for a moment. It's almost in your grasp. And then and then for me, I let go. And I just love those vivid moments that you can hold on to sometimes. And especially if you wake up, like if you don't wake up with your alarm, let's say you just sort of wake up naturally and you're kind of sort of in that dreamy state, or maybe you're still holding on to the last dream that you were dreaming. And, you can hold on to that vivid picture in your mind. I love doing that.
In the first part of the episode, one of the first things we explored was how dreams serve as a mirror for our waking mental health and well-being. Karen shared her research, highlighting how daily stresses and worries often pop into our dreams. She even gave a great example using her own recurring falling dream. We also touched on practical techniques for dealing with those unsettling nightmares, including things like imagery rehearsal therapy and even venturing into lucid dreaming. For Karen, dreams are a powerful personal tool for self-reflection and gaining emotional insight. We then shifted gears into dream techniques and recall tools. Karen shared her own bedtime ritual of writing down thoughts to capture those fleeting ideas right as she transitions between wakefulness and sleep. We talked about an intriguing experiment with targeted dream incubation, where consciously guiding your thoughts before sleep can influence dream content. Karen also gave us a peek into the future with Dust, a high-tech app by Adam and Thomas Vega designed to boost dream recall and reduce nightmares. I even found myself thinking about how these techniques could apply to my own creative process, especially considering how much pre-sleep media consumption influences my dreams. Now, our conversation naturally led us to dream interpretation, apps versus traditional theories. Karen recounted her experience using the Elsewhere app to analyze a vivid dream involving a rental car and a man in a World War II gas mask. It was fascinating to hear how the app offered both Freudian and Jungian perspectives, and how Karen personally connects these dream elements to her waking life. I noted how these different interpretations can really act as a powerful reframing technique, which can spark new ideas and a deeper sense of curiosity. Finally, we delved into our shared experience with lucid dreaming and further dream interpretation. Karen explained her interest in understanding why specific past events appear in dreams, leading us to discuss the next up model of dreaming by Robert Stickgold and Antonio Zadra. Essentially, how recent experiences and old memories, how they intertwine to create our dream narratives. So now let's slip back into the stream for my second part of my conversation with Karen van Kampen.
So the whole year, I just kept going back to one question that really motivated me along the way and really got me wanting to write this book is, why is it that I am going to dream about something from my past? Why did I choose last night to dream of something from, say, high school or some moment? What was it? And I learned that, we know that dreaming helps us consolidate memories. It helps boost learning. And one of the ways that it does this is through associations. So let's say that something happens to us recently and we dream about it. In order to strengthen that memory, one idea is that it is associated with a memory that's already stored. So then maybe we take something from our past and somehow it's associated with something that happened recently. And there's it's called Next Up, this model of dreaming. And it's by Robert Stickgold and Antonio Zadra. And it is so fascinating about how we make these associations. And that's when there's all this creativity happens and this learning. And it sort of helped me understand why possibly I will dream something of far deep in my past at a certain one night. Why that night? It's so interesting.
But do you find, doing all this research, do you find that the dreams you've been better, how can I say this? Have your dreams been better at solving problems for you or hinting towards an answer to a question? I mean, are you, if you understand what I'm getting at, I'm trying to scratch out the question here.
I understand what you mean. So I think this year has really given me a deeper appreciation and a deeper awareness of my dreams. So yes, there's been times where I've set my intention and I've tried to work on something. And so as I'm falling asleep, I'm thinking about something, using dreams as, this creative brainstorming tool to try and, brainstorm an idea that I'm working on. The other thing that really what it's done is given me a different perspective and appreciation of dreaming. And, I kept trying to understand, why is it that dreams themselves, why do they matter so much? So we understand, there's in-sleep benefits to dreams and then there's post-sleep benefits to dreams. So while we're dreaming, we understand that during dream sleep, it helps boost learning, consolidate memory, help us process difficult emotions, potentially help us prepare for life's dangers, whatever form they may take. It could be just a difficult conversation at work that we're preparing for. So there's all of these things going on. And then there's also the post-sleep benefits of dreams, which I've really learned a lot about. How can we use dreams? Once we've woken up, how can we take our dreams and use them and in our daily life? And one way to look at it is, dreams are an experience, like waking experiences. It's dream experiences. And when we dream, we believe them to be true. They seem real to us, with the dreaming brain operating in this different mode. And we, are swept along with whatever's happening in our dreams. And we are completely convinced that whatever's happening is plausible, no matter how strange and wild it is. But, how can we use our dreams when we wake up? And that's the thing that I've really gotten in touch with. So I'm trying to, take my dreams and say, what themes are there? Who keeps showing up in my dreams? Or what ideas am I pursuing? What do I need to pay more attention to? So that's changed for me over the year.
Have you found that you have repetitive dreams?
I do. I have that falling dream every few months where I just picture myself falling. And I haven't had it though since, so I have to try that trick where I'll put a mattress and land in the mattress. Sometimes I have just sort of annoying logistical dreams, like I'm doing things like annoying, like making a PowerPoint presentation or things that I'm working on during the day. And I'll keep doing those routine tasks. Do you know what I mean?
I totally, it's like I'm trying to work out something and then I reset and I do it again. For me,
right.
if I can catch myself, okay, time to go for a bio break, just get up,
right,
scramble the neural net there. So when you lie down again, it's you're starting from scratch, right? Oh God, I find that so frustrating. Yes, I've been there multiple times.
You know what else? Actually, I just thought of it. Something that has changed is, so I did this is a low tech dream tool or technique. If we want to talk about the dream sharing,
please.
So I had this really interesting experience. I participated in my first dream sharing group, and it gave me such a different appreciation and perspective on dreaming and on my dream. And so what it is so Mark Blagrove and Julia Lockhart, they're based in Wales, and they have, it's called Dreams ID. And if you want to Google it, Dreams ID, it is so cool. So it's dreams, interpretation, and drawn. So what they do is it's this dream sharing group, and they do it all over the world. They do these dream sharing groups all over the world. And they did one for me. So I gathered a group of friends, some old colleagues from my old students from my master's program and dream researchers, and we all got together and they helped me. I shared a dream, and then they helped me they gave their perspective on potentially what they would have thought of the dream if it had been their dream. And so it was really neat to get them to look at my dream with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective. And then while I was sharing my dream, Julia was painting my dream. So she literally painted a canvas of my dream, and I have it in my office, and it is so special. So what she does is she has this old copy of Freud's Freud's like the dream Bible, right? Like interpretation of dreams. And so what she does, with permission from the publisher, she takes a double-page spread from the book and she paints someone's dream. And so the really cool thing is that she's creating this visual of your dream, and then all of these words from Freud are coming out, and she circles them. And it was uncanny how some of the words went with the visuals.
Wow.
So it was unbelievable how it happened.
And so what did you learn about yourself going through such a unique experience?
So what I learned was that I often explain my dreams to myself just by relating them to what's happening in my waking life. So the dream was about, I was wearing this long camel colored, this really big swing coat, very heavy wool winter coat. And so I just assumed, okay, I dreamt of this coat because I had tried one on. And I actually didn't buy it because it was too expensive. So I thought, okay, I'm dreaming about it because I really wanted that coat, but I didn't get it. But in my dream, then I created this scenario where it was almost like there was this like pouch in the, or a pocket in the back of the coat. And I was hiding someone. I was protecting someone within the coat while there were all these people running around me trying to find this person. And even though I never told anyone that I was hiding this person, I felt like I was doing a good thing because I was protecting them somehow. So that was the first part of the dream. And then the second part of the dream was there was this myth. And supposedly and on the other side was a restaurant. And in order to eat at the restaurant, or I actually had to get a job at this restaurant, I had to fit through this mail slot, which was so bizarre. And, you know, like the comments that came out of the dream sharing group, I didn't understand it at all. And then someone was saying to me, well, maybe this is sort of this metaphorical way of trying to fit yourself into a job that maybe you don't feel is a good fit, or maybe you're trying to fit into a work culture that maybe you feel you're not, you know, suitable for.
That's interesting.
Or questioning, which I never would have. Isn't that interesting? Like I never would have thought of that. It's
but
it's
that's it comes back, circle back to what we were talking about before, was how, you know, these different interpretations can create reframes. And, you know, working with resilience in the sense that when people have challenges, sometimes they can't change the situation, but what allows them to handle the situation is a change in perspective. For example, from problem to possibility, from subjective to objective. But the idea of dream interpretations, or different interpretations of a dream, can completely, we can see our situation in a completely different light, which might embolden us or motivate us or enable us to tackle, to walk, to move through that challenge. That's what I just found fascinating. That's why I just want to kind of ask you, what did you learn about yourself?
That's it. So it's that new perspective and the reframing, I think, that has really been highlighted for me through the research over the year of researching for the book. And it just really highlights why dreams matter on their own, for all of the benefits that we get while we're sleeping and all the ways we can use our dreams after for, you know, self-awareness, for introspection. It makes me think how, you know, before I started meditating or doing yoga, I really didn't personally understand how it could, you know, give you different perspectives, and it could be used for all the different ways in introspective and introspection and self-awareness. And that's, for me, what happens with dreams. It's this perfect state where you can have that, you're given an opportunity to look at things differently, to have a different mindset, to have a different perspective, because you're dreaming and your brain is operating in a different mode.
I'm just very respectful of your time, Karen. I just wanted to kind of drop back to something we had covered in our first conversation together about dreams and how they are connected to well being and ill being. Since we
Yeah.
spoke so many months ago, have you learned anything new that can contribute to how we can use dreams to help us move from an ill state to more of a well state, or to find more emotional regulation, to find more mental well-being per se?
So there's a lot of research that I'm learning that's being done right now on dreams and well-being. And something really interesting that I learned about this pilot study to do with targeted dream incubation. So if you suffer from nightmares, it often feels like, or really stressful recurring bad dreams, it can feel like they're never going to end. It can feel like you're never going to find a way out, and you feel really helpless. And so one way, as we talked about, is to try and rewrite certain details or the ending of the dream. But another really powerful tool is to, by showing yourself, by guiding your dream thoughts as you're falling asleep, it shows you that you are in control, that you have control over, you're able to help shape your dreams. So it gives you this feeling of empowerment and control, so you don't feel helpless. And so there was this pilot study that was recently done on how you can use TDI to help reduce nightmares, because nightmares can be a risk for suicidal thoughts. And they found that the suicidal thoughts diminished after for the people who did the TDI, because it gives you this feeling of, okay, there's something I can do. I can control these dream thoughts. So I find that really interesting. I'm excited to see what happens in that area. Last time we also talked about anesthesia dreams.
Yes.
And
yes.
That is so fascinating. So it's the group, the dream team out of Stanford. And so they've been studying dreams that people have during anesthesia. So I was told to sort of a way to understand this is when you're under anesthesia, you're going through all these different brain states, and picture it like a radio is, say, you're awake. They try and keep patients at about 48, and they're in this calm, relaxed state. And what they've found is that while they're in this calm, relaxed state, people are having these profound dream experiences, and they're so profound of an experience to actually changing their waking well-being. And so I was given an example. There was a woman who had had a knife attack, and her hand had been severely cut. And when she went for surgery, she relived the knife attack very similarly to how reliving a traumatic experience during exposure therapy. And so she kept reliving it, but she would relive the attack, then she had the surgery, and then she looked and her hand was okay. And she kept going over the same loop. And it was this positive experience, because then she saw her hand was healed and she was better after. And so I was told that it's almost like you can think of it as this fast forward exposure therapy that's happening. Yeah. And so now they're studying this in the lab as well, like out of the OR as well as in the lab. And I'm really interested to see how that can be used for well-being. How can we, use these tools to improve our well-being?
Yeah. The whole idea, you said something I found quite profound. We have our awaken experience, but you also called it a dream experience. I mean, the brain, it thinks it's going on regardless if we're sleeping or we're in an awake state, but it's an experience that we're having. One is maybe more sort of a fancy surreal, and it's being created within our heads, and the other one's sort of externally influenced. But it's, for me, from my clinical psychology days and working with trauma way back when, I just find that so interesting how we can use our internal environment and even our sleeping state and the information that is taken from that dream state. And if we can capture it, if we can articulate those abstract thoughts sometimes into concrete words and then look at it, again, it comes back to me to whether it's well-being or ill-being, whether it's having nice dreams, daydreams, or nightmares, and how we can interpret this and maybe share it with someone we truly trust and respect and thinking, what do you make of this? And he or she, a friend, family, a colleague, again, well trusted and respected, they can say, well, this is what I would read into it. And just having that objective perspective of something that is so personal to us, that was part of our dream state, that can be a little bit of a door opener to a solution. And all of a sudden, it is a way of processing, whether it is suicidal ideation, whether it's negative dreams or nightmares or what have you, in a whole different way. Because sometimes it's just one small thing that can open up a universe of perspective to help us to find more mental resilience or emotional resilience.
That I totally agree. And so when I was interviewing and chatting with different dream researchers, the thing that really inspired me, that the name of the book, The Brain Never Sleeps, was inspired by all these conversations, because when you look at, we exist on this 24-hour continuum of thought and experience, and the brain never sleeps. It never shuts off. There's no on-off switch. So the experiences that we have during the day and the experiences that we have in our dreams can be just as impactful, and they can help shape us and help us understand ourselves better and others. And that really sort of turned a light on for me to let me understand dreams in a different way. If you look at dreams along this continuum of experience, then for me, it makes sense why they can be so powerful. Because if we think about experiences in our waking life and how they can affect our thoughts and our emotions and our behavior, it makes sense why some impactful, profound dreams can have the same effect on us.
Well, Karen, it's been a blast again. I'm sure there'll be a part 3, but we've talked about such an interesting topic. It is part of every person's life. If someone wants to learn more about you, your writings, what you do, can you share some of where they can reach out to you, or they can read your research and such?
So The Brain Never Sleeps comes out February 2026. And in the meantime, I'm going to be sharing some of the research, some of the really cool stuff that I've learned along the way. So if people want to follow me at Science of You and Me on Instagram, I'm going to be sharing some of the research and some of the conversations I had. It's been so interesting. It's been such a wonderful project. And thanks so much for chatting with me and having me back on your show. This has been fun.
Always, Karen. I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes, folks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Karen. As we wrap up this incredible conversation with Karen, it's clear that our dreams are far more than just random nightly occurrences. Karen's year-long deep dive has truly cemented her appreciation for their profound role in memory consolidation, emotional processing, and even problem-solving. We explored fascinating creative avenues like the Dream Salon, where shared interpretation and visual art, well, how it brought new dimensions to understanding our subconscious narratives. Karen's experience with her dream about a coat and a mail slot, well, interpreted by Julia Lockhart, really highlighted how a fresh perspective can unlock surprising layers of meaning, moving beyond our initial waking life interpretations. We also discussed how dreams offer new perspectives and can help with emotional regulation, with targeted dream incubation showing real promise in reducing nightmares and empowering individuals. And that intriguing study on dreams during anesthesia, it just further underscores the brain's continuous processing, even in a calm, relaxed state. We touched on how dreams parallel our waking life concerns and the potential for dream analysis to build mental resilience. The core insight I hinted at in the intro, the one that truly ties all this together, is that dreams are your brain's personalized, continuous narrative, tirelessly working to process, organize, and make sense of your experiences, both past and present. They are a powerful, often overlooked resource for self-understanding, emotional healing, and creative problem solving, equipping you with the internal tools to navigate your waking life with greater clarity and resilience. Karen, a personal thank you. I appreciate you going a round two with me. I had, again, another brilliant conversation. I find dreams fascinating, and I look forward to talking to you once your book is launched in February of 26. Folks, you will find all of Karen's contact information and links in the show notes and to our previous conversation. If you have any questions, please send them my way. I'm always open to hear your feedback and your comments. And until Bite Size Friday, keep well, keep strong, and we will speak soon.